This episode is sponsored by going out to eat with a big group and being pressured into sharing your food.
This episode is also brought to you by couples Instagram accounts. Double the people, double the cringe. This is Sorry for the Wait. Here we go! Fired up, ready to go. Welcome to the show, folks. This is Sorry for the Wait, a weight loss podcast for regular people by regular people. I am your host, Seth.
And I'm your host, Strawberry.
And hey, Barry.
Hey, Seth.
How we doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's quite a day.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, on the count of three. Happy
Wow, thank you.
birthday to you.
And that's it.
Cha-cha-cha.
And that's it, because we have a whole episode to get to, so I don't know if we can even afford to sing the whole happy birthday.
Yeah, no, I actually went down the road to Chili's and told them it was your birthday, and so the whole staff is going to be coming over here any second with the cake and
it's pretty funny.
Happy birthday. It's your special day. Yeah.
Oh, God. And most people do know this about me. But some of our outside listeners might not know this about me. The biggest fear that I have on this God green earth is being sung to in public at my on my birthday.
So funny.
I shrink, I get an actual stomach ache. I feel like I'm going to get sick whenever I hear like the hellish claps of hands.
Even if it's not you, I think you just instinctively you react that way when you hear it happening to other people. I think until you're secure that they're not coming over to your table.
There would be times at camp where I always had to be the first one to the restaurant if we were all going out to eat together, because I knew that if I showed up late, one of you assholes was going to tell the server on our way in, hey, the guy coming in, red hair, bushy beard, backwards hat. Yeah, it's his birthday.
So that's why you would come in late?
No, that's why I would get there as early as I possibly could. And then I knew after the first time that if I did come late, I would walk in and I'd be like, hey, it's not my birthday. And the server would be, she'd be like, what are you even talking about? Do you want to eat here? And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I think the funniest one was we were going out to eat. It was you, me, and a couple of other people. And I did do that. I went to the side and I was like, it's his birthday, bring over the chocolate lava cake or whatever. I go back, we sit down, we're talking, we're having a good time. Somehow in conversation, it naturally came up. I think because somebody else had a birthday and they were doing the clap and you had your reaction and you just talked about how it gives you a stomach ache. If that were to happen right now, you'd be you would not be able to touch your food. And I started to feel bad. So I was like, hold on, I'll be right back. And you were like,
I have to go to the bathroom.
And you were like, are you doing a bit? And I was like, no, I have to. And you were like, don't tell them it's my birthday. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to tell them it's not your birthday.
Yeah, because you had already done it.
And then when I went back and I came back to the table, you didn't even want to look at me.
Oh my God.
You were so mad.
I was so upset. And then another time that it did happen, that was probably the most prevalent. I don't even know if you know about this one, but it was a girl I was dating and I was out to dinner with her family or out to lunch with her family. Mm-hmm. And it was the whole family and her brother.
How many people?
I want to say 13 people, but you're with your girlfriend's family at the time. And you're just trying to focus on not screwing anything up.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're trying to be engaging. You're trying to be on your game there.
Yeah. Happy birthday to you now.
And her brother-in-law told he's on the other end of the table, told the waitstaff, and then they start clapping, and I'm trying to hold it together.
I'm not a freak.
I'm trying to
a panic attack.
But I'm trying to hold it together, thinking that it's just for somebody else. I'm like, well, at least it's not for you. And then they start getting closer and closer, and I wanted to projectile throw up all over the table.
Honestly, I had no sympathy for you until it happened to me when I was 18 and
right, and then you were like, this is the worst feeling on earth. But you know what? It is a happy birthday. And
happy birthday.
On this day in the year of somebody's Lord, 1993.
How old are you now?
27, the big 27. But yeah, thank you, Mom. And Dad, I guess you helped,
Yeah, it takes two.
But Mom did all the work, so thank you, Mama. I love you. So, hey, how was your week?
It was a pretty good week. I'm down a pound, but I also don't really have too much interest in continuing to weigh myself. And I kind of wanted to know what your thoughts on that are, because you're now also getting to the end of the program.
Right.
you know, where do you think, like, do you still weigh yourself as often now as you did throughout? Do you plan on like...
I don't weigh myself as often now. I mean, like, I maintained this week, and so like I'm very happy about that, and like we'll get into it in a little bit, but like when it comes to weighing yourself, I do think that there is a level of importance on weighing yourself, but I think that it's just kind of up to the person on like wherever you're at in your journey. Like, I don't think it needs to be like, this is the one set day every week I need to get on the scale and take down the number.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I always think that it could be a pretty fluid kind of thing of like, you know what? I felt a little off this week, or like I felt like my decision making might have been a little bit shaky this week. Let's get on the scale and assess.
For me, it's just that I've gotten like out of the habit of doing it right when I wake up.
Right.
And like if I don't do it right when I wake up, I don't want to do it later in the day if I've eaten food.
Skews the number a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I want to have like consistency as I track my data.
Right.
You know, and so it's just kind of like, yeah, when I get around to it, when I wake up and before I eat, I think to myself like, oh, I need to step on the scale. Like that's the next time I'll probably weigh myself.
Well, isn't that so funny though? Because we're so afraid of the scale naturally. Like, you know what I mean? Like we always have been, but like we're also trying to be friends with it now. Like,
right. Which is why I don't want that pressure.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so funny when the scale has always been this thing that we've been like so afraid of and so obsessed by, and we're trying not to completely eliminate it, just find a good relationship with it.
Early on in this process, I was weighing myself every single day.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
And you know, it wasn't something that concerned me then because that was while I was actively trying to lose a lot of weight.
Right.
So it was important for me to like stay on top of my numbers and to kind of associate like, okay, how did I feel and what did I eat yesterday and how does that track on the scale?
Right.
And, you know, is it something where, you know, I need to go back? And there were times I would gain weight and go back and reassess and change things up and I would have success.
Right, exactly. And I think it falls different for everybody because I know some people who do weigh themselves every single day and they love it. Like that's just part of their day. I know some people who weigh themselves once a month. And I'm like, you know what? Like that works. It kind of just depends on like, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you need to check in with that?
And then
because,
of course, people who just never weigh themselves.
Right, exactly. Like we always used to. We'd be like, yeah, we'll do it once every 3.5 years. Oh no.
I would weigh myself whenever I would go to camp. And
that was it.
And I would just like, that would tell me all I needed to know.
But that's good that you're down a pound. And honestly, I think it's a good thing to kind of constantly try and feel out of like, where is my balance with the scale and how much do I even want to mess with it? Yeah,
exactly. So how was your week?
You know, obviously culminating today, obviously I am Little Lord birthday. And it is my day.
It is. It's your day. You're a big boy.
It is my day of birth. But this whole week, it's so funny. It was so rocky. Coming off the wedding, right?
Right.
Coming off the wedding, I feel like I didn't wake up this week. I was just so exhausted. This was the most exhausted I had been in a really long time. And like, I just kind of didn't feel like myself for the majority of the week, oddly enough, which is kind of tough because the wedding was so fun and I had a great time. And then it's like my birthday today. And so like the whole week I'm thinking like, let's just keep it going.
Yeah, party Seth is here.
Right. And honestly, like I felt off. I did. I really did. I never felt like I kind of hit my stride. And it was tough. I didn't go to the gym nearly as much this week, which was nice to still see that I maintained.
Yeah.
But I think that this was a perfect kind of week where it's like, okay, like, you know, you're off. Like, you know, and guess what? It's not going to be like this every week. There are just some weeks where like you kind of have to recharge your batteries a little more. And that's kind of what I focused on doing.
So do you feel like you're a little more recharged now at the end of the week?
Yeah, I'm definitely like starting to feel myself kind of come back. Like I had a good night's sleep, which was great. It's obviously nice seeing all the texts and messages from people like wishing me a happy birthday. That juices you up, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's part of the ebbs and flows. Like there are some weeks where you're just going to kind of feel a little weird, feel a little off, or you're just kind of tired. And we do a lot of work for the show. We do a lot of work in our real lives. Like,
yeah.
I think it just kind of caught up to me a little bit. And so it's nice to just kind of feel myself coming out the other side.
That's always
and
a
so,
good thing.
I mean, things are looking up in year 27, you know?
Yeah.
It's gonna be
27 is always a good year.
Yeah, right? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's a thing, the 27 club, right?
Isn't that about people who
No.
died?
No. It's about people who had a really fun
No,
time.
I don't. I think the 27 club is a bad thing.
Just don't look it up.
Okay, don't look it up. but you know what? We never have to look up.
It's the craving of the week.
a very special birthday craving of the week. Every segment is just going to be
the birthday.
It's a birthday segment, even though this comes out on Wednesday. So if you didn't wish it to me then,
you're late.
I will accept it on Wednesday. No. but
just wait until you get like more texts on Wednesday.
I know, and I'm gonna be like, man, why? Oh no, it's because we put out an episode. But we're back for another craving of the week. And I've been leading off the past few, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly, we can't even remember back to some episodes. But you know what?
I'm ready to lead off.
You're ready to lead it off? Hit me with it.
All right. So there is something, it's fall, and there's so many great things that we've talked about fall. But one other thing that I like about fall is the fall scents.
Fall scents?
Yes. Like.
Oh, okay. That fall aroma.
Yeah, the odor.
Yeah.
If you will.
Yeah.
You got your pumpkin spice, of course. You got your apple. You got your crisp autumn leaves. And there's nothing more autumn to me like the smell of a nice fall candle.
Ooh, good candle.
And you know what? The smell of the candles, Yankee Candle, wonderful store.
Yeah,
I
great
love going
place.
in there, love smelling them all. But you know what would make candles even better?
What would make them better?
If while they're burning and you get to have that lovely, lovely smell, you could also give it a little.
Yeah, just a little nosh.
A little nosh.
You want it? You want edible fall candles?
I want edible candles in general.
In general, okay.
But right now, fall candles. Because candles have a great smell, and it's different from the way things taste too. Like
that's
true.
A
pumpkin candle doesn't taste like pumpkin pie.
Right. It's definitely
it's different.
Yeah,
something.
it's playing to its strength of the sense.
So in my ideal world, this edible candle will not taste like whatever it's trying to imitate. It'll taste the way that the candle smells.
Ooh, I like that. Could I add something into this?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Just like if I was to come into your edible candle shop,
come into
actually.
my playground.
So what I imagine too is like, like sometimes they have like birthday cake candles, but not like it's like a birthday cake scented candle.
Yes.
I wish that there was almost like a mechanism, like a little nozzle that as the candle burns down and like the wax kind of melts, it just kind of can ooze out through this faucet and it's just your icing.
Ooh.
Like you're just kind of, and it's like that warm icing.
I like that.
That would be kind of cool with pumpkin too. Like, oh yeah, like it's a pumpkin candle, but then you just turn this shit and it's pumpkin icing.
That's a great like twist on it too.
Because think about it, whenever you're cooking a good meal, like that's what it smells like. Like what if you could just not have to cook the meal and then you're just turning the nozzle and you're getting some pumpkin frosting, some pumpkin icing?
And
that would be pretty cool.
And if we think about this outside of the realm of food scented candles,
right?
There's also so many, Home Sweet Home. Right? That's one of my favorite Yankee Candle varieties. Home Sweet Home.
Balsam and cedar.
What does it smell like? I don't know. It just smells nice.
Yeah,
right?
It just smells like home.
Mahogany teakwood. Love that candle. What does that smell like? I don't know. Mahogany teakwood, I guess.
It's one of the most pretentious names.
Thank you. But what if you could taste that smell? Right? Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would be interesting.
Yeah, so I want to know what those things taste like.
I do like that. If anybody finds any edible candles or has the innovation to make them, we will sponsor them.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good one.
So what's your craving of the week?
So, obviously, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's going to be...
No, coat it in sugar. It makes the craving better.
It's going to be a birthday kind of craving, but...
Let's go. More than the cake pops?
All I'm thinking is that, obviously, I want to be pretty low key on my birthday, but why not have a parade? And I can be Little Lord.
Just a low key parade.
If I'm gonna be Little Lord birthday today, why not just go full send and let's have a parade?
I should have gotten you a crown and a sash.
Well, right, and it's all right. You kind of wanged it there, but it's okay.
I'll get it to you on Wednesday.
So I'm thinking that if we were to have a parade, what's part of a parade but a float? So I want a root beer (parade) float, and I want just a big parade-sized float, kind of like a tank.
Okay.
Essentially, it's almost like part tank, part platform. I'm establishing kind of just like a mobile pool of root beer float.
Okay.
But I'm sitting there, I'm being Little Lord birthday, waving to all of my wonderful fans.
Pause. Can I ask about the visual of this?
So the way that I imagine it is that there's standing platform on the front. Right.
Okay.
And it's elevated. So and then we have a big throne, a big throne for Little Lord birthday. And I will just stand and people will just be wishing me happy birthday and throwing me gifts. And I will be really thankful. But guess what? On this parade, it's been unseasonably warm so far this fall.
That is true. Although today's a
little chilly. But it has been pretty warm, and so I'm imagining, if my birthday parade is super hot, what better way than to go to the back 2/3 where it's just full of root beer float.
Right, of
you know,
course.
scoops of ice cream just constantly being ladled in there, like by my jesters. You know,
so there's the platform, and then is it like raised with the root beer float, where it's like almost like an ice cream sundae cup, maybe?
Kind of like that.
The
That's
root
how
beer
I
in there?
like imagine it, and then it's like transparent through, so like you don't have to ever take your eyes off me as I'm swimming through my float.
Of course not. That would take away from the
really would.
awesome image of it.
Yeah, and so like I'm just diving in, and I think that for me, so much of this has to be ice cream decorated, and it's a little tough because it's going to be warm.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to like kind of have like a little sustainable, like as ice cream melts, it gets thrown into this like freezer that like refreezes it, and then it just comes back out and can be like re-scooped.
Okay, so it's like a recycled ice cream.
Why
thing.
aren't we repurposing melted ice cream? Have we
right.
ever thought of that? Like,
You're right. Think about how many gallons of ice cream are wasted
just being melted, like just some ice cream soup, you know? Why not? Just
that is a travesty. Why isn't there a nonprofit out there
why
that's solving
hasn't
this
Jeff
crisis?
Bezos answered the call on this, you dick? Like, why haven't he? Well, I think that there is a way to sustainably reuse melted ice cream.
Yeah, we need to get right on that.
Yeah,
Because
we'll
climate
figure that
change
out.
is making the outside so much warmer that it's going to make root beer parade floats a
Right.
thing of the past.
And so, as Little Lord Birthday, my decree, my royal decree on my birthday is to first person to find a way to sustainably like reuse melted ice cream wins the prize. What's the prize?
I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. But all I know is that Little Lord Birthday gets his root beer parade float. But we do have a submission.
Ooh.
We do have a submission.
Lay it out there.
This comes from our listener Cameron down in Florida. So Cameron, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cam.
You are the best. So Cameron submitted. She wants the way that she had worded this, right? It was interesting in the start, but then she really caught me with the final line. She essentially wants a fondue Fantasia. This is like you want to talk about the biggest fountain of fondue that you could ever imagine. And my mind went bonkers when I first read this.
Fondue. I haven't had fondue in so
I can't
long. I think I forgot fondue exists.
I can't remember the last time I had fondue, and to imagine like this life-size fondue, if you were to reshoot Disney's Fantasia with fondue, it would have made like $2 billion, I think.
Especially today.
Everybody loves melted cheese, dog. Like that is just where it's at. And could you imagine just this fondue Fantasia, just fountains of queso,
So we're talking
cheddar jack.
cheese
Yeah.
cheese fondue.
Oh yeah,
Not chocolate fondue.
No,
fondue.
we're going cheese fondue.
Okay.
And that's what we're going with. And actually, you know what? Let's not limit the space.
Yeah, I'm a chocolate guy, so that when I think of fondue, like I'm trying to chocolate fondue.
I'm trying to
Not
ha-
that I have anything wrong with cheese.
I'm trying to have cheese and chocolate fondue.
At the same damn time.
Do you remember in Rugrats when there was that theme song for chocolatey cheese?
No, I don't.
No.
How did it go?
I can't remember the way the jingle went, but that used to be a thing where Angelica would talk about chocolate cheese. And it was like one of those like really messed up commercials that parents were just like, yeah, whatever, go watch the Rugrats. And they were just feeding us lies about chocolate and cheese. But I really like the idea of like this big, massive fondue fountain. Because, I mean, for me, fondue goes with anything, whether it's cheese or chocolate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think just because, like, you're in the space, like, anything could be on that little dish around the outside. Like, someone could put pickles there, and I'd be like, all right, I'll give it a shot. You hate pickles.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm happy.
Pickles and chocolate don't sound like a good combination.
Pickles and cheese, though. I could do
Pickles
that.
and anything doesn't sound like a good combination. to
What's
me.
probably the most wild thing that you could dip in fondue that you would be like, I could go for that?
Well, if we're talking chocolate fondue, I would probably say pizza.
Okay.
And if we're talking cheese fondue, I'd probably say chocolate.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Okay, and so Cammie, thank you. We really appreciate that, folks.
That was a good one, Cam.
If you want to submit your craving of the week, please feel free. SFTWSubmissions at gmail.com. But holy crap, we haven't done this in a while. Sound the alarm!
New segment
alert! Woo!
Woo!
We have not thrown something against the wall in a while.
Yeah, so let's see if this one's sticky enough.
So I came up with this and I pitched this to you a couple nights ago, and the title of this segment is called Confooding. And when I first...
That's a confooding title.
It
Seth.
is a confooding title, and good thing that you provided that context, because when I first said this, you did kung fu style
Yeah, I was
karate chops before I'd even given any of this context, and I was like, no, that's not it. Like that's not a thing. And so
I was very confooded.
right, you were confooded, and so confooding is all about just like food items or food trends, things that confuse us about the food world,
like things we just don't get.
things we don't get, and. If I may,
Please.
if I may
Kick us off here. This
kick
was your
off
idea.
in this inaugural segment. Here's the thing. I had given you a couple examples of like what I might go with. I went with a completely different one.
Okay.
And so my confooding, this week is dry-aged beef. Okay?
Dry-aged beef.
Dry-aged beef. Okay.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about dry-aged beef. I see it on steakhouse menus all the time. Like, it's a dry-aged beef and it's like $17 more. Isn't dry-aged beef just old? It's just old meat.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Right? It's old meat.
Where's the benefit of this? How is this? I don't think it's like wine where it like basks in age.
Did somebody just forget and roll the dice? Like the very first time dry-aged beef was ever served, did some dude went into his kitchen and was just like, "Hey Todd, how long's this beef been here?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know, Jerry. It's I'm gonna say around 12 months." And he goes, "Oh man, this was expensive.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's give it a shot." And then they served it, and they just watched this person with binoculars their whole meal to see if they died. And then lo and behold, that person eats their meal. And then afterwards, they're like, "That's the greatest steak I have ever had in my life."
Well, it definitely paints a better picture than, going out to a steakhouse and looking at the menu and seeing like spoiled rotten meat.
Right, exactly.
It's like, oh no, it's just dry aged beef.
It is literally room temperature beef. Like I always hate when I see it on restaurants and they're like, "And this is the special room where we keep our dry aged beef." I'm like, so you just have a closet where you keep old steak. Like that,
but again, their special room sounds a lot better than closet.
Well, that's why
it's
really all about the branding, and I just don't understand why it's more expensive. That's literally like saying, like, here are these hand-me-downs. No, they're vintage. It's vintage steak.
Yeah, there you go. You solved the puzzle, Seth.
But
this is the food equivalent of reselling clothes for higher value.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me, sir. Would you like this fresh, just kind of like cut, primed beef that was just delivered to us yesterday? That will be $37. Or would you like this old beef with fuzz on it, and that'll be $942. Give me the old beef, man. Like it's such a weird status thing, but I also can't argue it because it does taste good. What makes dry?
I've actually never had it. Is it better?
Yeah, dry aged steaks, like some of them are really, really good, especially if they're cooked well. What is that? What goes into that?
I don't know.
Why does it taste good?
We need a culinary expert to just let us know, why is dry?
Right.
Like, why? How?
I mean,
we're just very confooded.
I don't know. So kick me in the nuts and order me a pizza. I am confooded by dry-aged beef, and I just don't understand it. And that's why I'm ordering a pizza instead. But what did you go with? What are you confooded by?
It's funny because I think we're both in the very similar space here. And I just have a quick question that might be a little personal, but have you ever had just a fatty piece of meat?
Oh, like just full-on fat.
Just like so much fat hanging off all over it.
Oh, hell yeah.
I do not get people who just eat the fat.
Really? Okay.
I can't, and I get that like fat foods taste good, like
right.
whatever. It's a texture thing for me.
It is a consistency thing.
I don't get it, and I hate fatty pieces of meat so much that like I refuse to get them because I have to spend the entire time cutting all of the fat off and just putting it to the side to never touch it.
So that's super funny because when I was little, like my parents would always be like, okay, like when you cut this, you cut the fat off and leave it to the side. And just as a kid, like with natural curiosity, I'm like, well, why do we have to do that? and I remember all the time trying to like look around the dinner table and be like, I'm just going to eat the fat. And like I could never really find a time. And then when I first had it, I was like, I think honestly, maybe I didn't even like it that much. It was just the fact that I was able to actually do it.
Right. The freedom.
Yeah. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm a big boy, so I'm going to eat the fat. And honestly, I don't see the purpose of eating just fat. Like I could maybe see about like if you're cutting a piece sideways and you get a little bit of fat with the bulk of the piece.
Right.
It's almost like a complement of it.
There are some times where it's like so stringy that it's very hard to just separate a little piece of the fat off of the rest of the meat. And I'm not going to like sacrifice a whole big chunk of meat just to get no fat on there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really just about like the globs of fat.
Right.
Because especially if you eat it separately.
If you're just ordering 3 separate steaks just to cut off the fat and have your little mondo amount of fat, like you're like, could you pass the salt? I got to salt this up a little bit more. Like that would freak me out.
Yeah. Like if you're just cutting your steak and you're having a little bit of fat in that same bite as you're having some steak, I'm not going to judge you on that one. I get that. I get it.
Yeah, and like marbling in a steak in itself, like that's good. Like because it's mixed in, but those ones, right, those corner pieces.
Right.
Ugh,
it's
man.
just the thing that confoods me is when people just like cut it off. even if you eat your steak first, but then you eat all of that fat at once. Like, that's gross.
Yeah,
to me. To me, it just ugh.
Yeah, no, it is confooding.
Yeah,
it's very confooding. And so honestly, you know what? I think that I really like this one though. I really like confooding. It ran a little quick, but you know what? That's what all first segments are about. Let's just get it on the board.
Yeah, and we'll see what else confoods us.
Right, and what confoods you? Like, what confoods you out there in the world? Like, is there any food that you're just like, I don't get it? And you need some clarification on it? Because guess what? We're probably confooded by it too.
Yeah.
And so SFTWSubmissions@gmail.com. Let us know what you're confooded by, baby. Let us know. But we are going to go into our main topic of the day. And what's the title of this episode?
The title of this episode today is 17 Burgers Hold the Fat Shaming. Have you ever just like gone to the drive-thru and you're like, hey, can I have 17 McDoubles?
17 burgers hold the fat shaming.
And then the lady on the other side is like, I'm sorry, 17? And I'm like, stop fat shaming me.
No, that's have you ever had the times where you've ordered something at a drive-thru and they're like, we're gonna need you to pull into a spot. We're gonna need you to pull into a spot because you're really gonna bum out everybody in the line when you're here for 25 minutes. We'll bring it to you. I had that a couple of times in my past where like,
was it ever a thing that made you go, I should eat less?
It was definitely like at KFC, like where I was like ordering like full-on family meals. I'm like, yep, for the family at home.
It's just a run. I'm the guy they sent to get it.
Don't shoot the
Wink,
messenger,
wink.
Hardy Hard. But in all seriousness, we wanted to do an entire episode on fat shaming because this is something that we are no strangers to. Even today, honestly, I don't think that this is something that we've even come close to fully getting over.
Well, because I feel like fat shaming isn't always something that is necessarily done by a person to another person. I feel like it can also affect just like everybody.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many reasons that fat people just live in a world that makes them feel ashamed.
100%. Because I think so many people are like, you're fat shaming that person or you're fat shaming that person. Most of the time, we're fat shaming ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, truthfully, because when you think about it, we grew up in a time, like you and I, especially like going to camp and doing this, like we grew up where we used kind of fat shaming and self-deprecation to cope and control the narrative.
Right. If we were fat shaming ourselves, then we're not really hurt. Then yeah, nobody else can fat shame us.
I guarantee that if I was to do a case study of like my time in high school, I fat shamed myself way more than anybody else did because I always felt that if I was the one doing it, then there was no way that they could have, I was taking the bit away from them.
Right. It's like the way that people can cope with bullying by trying to like make themselves the butt of the joke and
right.
nobody else can laugh at them.
And that's and people will constantly make this argument about fat shaming, okay? Like people will say, well, fat shaming works. Fat shaming does.
I hate that.
I can't stand that because
it's not. It doesn't work.
And here's the thing.
When does shaming ever actually change somebody else's behavior?
What situations in the world have ever been made better by being an asshole? Like, just think of it from that source. But what I will give them is that fat shaming can work in a short period of time for people, like people talking to themselves, because back when I had lost weight the first time, it did, like in the short term, it was if I found myself making a mistake and I really started to like yell at myself and be a dick to myself, it did make me more disciplined. But what I was finding out was that it destroyed me mentally over the long term.
I think that's because there's a difference between shaming yourself
and accountability,
and feeling ashamed.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think there's wrong with somebody feeling ashamed. It's okay to be ashamed of the choices that you make.
Right.
I don't think it's okay to be ashamed of who you are.
Right.
And I think the difference there is if you're like shaming yourself because you're fat, that's not it, Chief.
Yeah, that's not going to do it.
No. Like, but if you go to the drive-thru and you order 17 McDoubles and then you eat 17 McDoubles and then you say to yourself, wow, you really should not have done that. You should feel ashamed of that. You tell the mirror, like, shame on you.
Right.
You ring the bell, Game of Thrones style. Shame. Shame. You know what? That does have a place, and I don't think that's inherently wrong.
Well, and that's why I think that there's such a huge difference between, fat shaming and accountability, especially when it's internal.
Yeah, I'm talking about when you're doing this to yourself.
Right, and I think that we constantly, I still find myself doing that every now and again. Like, if I miss a time where I should be eating, I get there are some times where, like, depending on my mood, I'll be like, you fucking idiot. Like, what are you doing? And like, since I talk to myself on a regular basis anyway,
right,
I'll just kind of be like, you really fucking wanged it this time, Seth. Like, what's wrong with you? And I will try and talk it out with myself, but then I catch myself and I say, stop being a dick to yourself. Like, because this is another portion of it, right? where we fat shame ourselves or people who just fat shame in general, right?
Right.
So often in a weight loss journey, we always feel like it's us against the world. And we've said this in previous episodes.
Yeah.
And because growing up, we dealt with so many people externally just giving us shit all the time and either shaming us or bullying us or doing through all this. If it's going to start off with a foundation of like you against the world, you better make damn sure that you are your own biggest ally.
That's true.
Like you can't, if it really is like you against the world or us against the world, you better not be beating yourself.
Yeah, because then it's just you against everything.
Right, because it's almost like, hey, man, these guys suck because they're being mean to me, and then you talk to yourself and like, you're a dick.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make
Fuck
sense.
me.
Yeah, and I think that it's so easy for us to come to terms with. Like, it's so easy for us to kind of justify because we are just like, well, I'm just holding myself accountable.
Well, and the other thing that I think people who are on the side of fat shaming or any kind of shaming, I feel like it just doesn't make actual sense. I think of it this way. I walk out this door all the time. I see people in the hallway not wearing masks.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I give a dirty look from behind my mask? Yes, I do. But do I stop them in the hallway and I say, you should feel ashamed of yourself for not wearing a mask. There are people who live here who are older or have high risks. Like, I could say that. I would be right. But am I going to get that person to put on a mask?
No.
Or am I going to get them to just, like, fight me?
Or just run after you and cough on you.
Right, exactly. Like what is the outcome that I am expecting from this?
Right.
Like, and if you're not expecting the outcome to be they will change their behavior, then why do it?
Right.
Like, when people come at you and try to shame you for anything, it doesn't make you say, like, if somebody shames you for smoking, it doesn't make you go, I should stop smoking. It makes you go, wow, I should hide this better.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yes.
we talk about
Yes.
how much we like always the secret food stash,
Right.
and sneaking food and car food because you don't want to come into the house with all the food that you got. So
Right.
you eat half of it first, right? It's because we were so ashamed of it ourselves, and other people would often make us feel ashamed of it, that we have to hide it.
Right.
But we didn't stop eating it.
Yeah,
we
no.
just stopped letting people see us eat it.
Right, exactly. So that way we could always get the comment from people being like, but that's so weird. I never see you eat. And we could be like, yeah, I don't know what's going on.
And if you know somebody who's overweight and that situation happens, then that probably means that they feel ashamed.
Right. And
and that's a problem.
And
you shouldn't make people feel ashamed for what they eat.
And this is one of the things that made camp so valuable for us too, is because let's just eliminate the physical activity and the diet overhaul, right?
Right.
When it comes to losing weight, especially as a kid or as a young adult, it doesn't matter what age you are. No matter what age you are, when you're trying to lose weight, your support system and the amount of support you have around you is going to play arguably the largest role in your success. Like,
absolutely. You need to have the positivity around you, not negativity.
Right. You need to have a positive force around you and people who are cool with understanding that some either sacrifices have to be made or compromises have to be made in terms of the way that you used to live your life. And they're going to look at you and be like, I'm with you. Like, I'm with you till the end of the line, and whatever you need, I'm here. And I think when fat shaming comes into play, people don't feel supported. Because, like, no, I'm never going to feel supported if someone's be like, you're really kind of screwing this up, Seth. Like,
right.
you should know better. That's always the thing. You should know better. Like, yes, thank you, Isaac Newton, big dumb asshole. I'm trying to figure it out. I know that I know the right things, but you telling me that I'm really just kind of beefing it right now is not the way that it's going to get through to me.
There's also, like, a huge overlap with mental health, too, that, like, if somebody is overweight, they don't go to the gym at all, they eat a lot of food, they binge eat, they don't exercise much, like, there's a good chance that there's also some level of maybe depression going on.
Right.
And it's very hard when you're in either a depressive state like that or an anxious state or some sort of mental state. It can be very hard to make positive, big life changes.
Oh, absolutely.
That doesn't happen if you make them feel worse.
Right.
Right? Like, you need to be there and help them get to the place where they can identify the problem within themselves and want to make that change. The same way, if you love someone who's struggling with addiction, right? Are you just gonna, like, walk up and be like, oh, you should stop, like,
Like, you
doing
know, you're
crack. Like,
yeah, you know, you're ruining yourself,
yeah,
right?
It's like, yeah, no, they know, like, they don't do it for their health,
right?
Like, you get, like, help them help themselves.
And I think that it's because there's an angle at this that, like, you want to be able to. I think that the good advice here for people who are experiencing the fat shame, is that I think we all, and you and I, need to do a better job at this too, is calling it out. And it doesn't mean you have to call it out in a hostile way. But I think that it means that, like, if you feel like someone's giving you kind of like these things that are making you feel worse and aren't constructive in any way, you just we have to find a way to diplomatically say, like, look, like, I just need you to support me on this. Mm-hmm. And that's not really a great way that's going to support me. If anything, it's going to make me feel worse. And I love you.
Well,
because people do say these things with good intentions in their minds.
Can I push back a slight bit? Not really push back, but just clarify something, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't think that fat shaming is the way to stop people from fat shaming.
No.
Because fat shaming, like I just said, like, I don't think that that's an effective way to change people's behavior.
Right.
I think explaining, why fat shaming isn't good is a better thing. So yes, call it out to them and
and that's
talk
what I
about
mean
it
by
with
calling
them.
it out.
But
like,
don't, it's not like a thing where just cancel somebody because they fat shamed and then they'll magically stop fat shaming people.
No, of course
that's not how that's going to work.
And
either.
I'm thinking about this in terms of just the everyday person, like the 4 regular people. Like, that's kind of what it is that if you have somebody doing this with you, and it's someone that you care about, because people do have good intentions, it's just saying, like, look, like, that's probably not the best way to support me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then on the flip side, for people who do fat shame, you just got to think one time. Establish an on-deck circle in your brain before you just go batter up and just lay out anything that you say that you think is going to help, because you haven't gone through it.
And I really think that's the thing that, like, any type of shamers kind of have, is it's the sense of, like, I see something happening, somebody else is doing something that I think is the wrong thing for them to do,
right.
And I need to let them know that I think it's the wrong thing for them to do. Yeah. And, like, I think everybody, and I need to do it myself, needs to just realize your opinion on what other people do doesn't need to be spoken. Like, you don't need, like, just because you're
90% of the time it can stay in your head.
Just because you're entitled to an opinion doesn't mean you need to share it.
Right.
And you know what? You can just keep those thoughts that you have, because you might be right that person probably shouldn't have had 17 McDoubles.
Right.
You can be absolutely right that can't be a healthy thing. But fat shaming,
if you're going to go scorched earth on that person, they're just going to eat 18 the next time. Like, yeah. Go make a fake Twitter and keep it on private and just tweet these things to yourself, and that's how you get the opinions. Nobody else sees them. It's a private Twitter account just for you that you just send it into the void.
Makes you feel better. Do it. Fine.
Yeah, it's like an avatar of Richard Nixon, and you can just, like, let it sit there by itself. But I do think that fat shaming is one of the biggest things that we deal with in our community that has made strides forward. Like, it has made positive strides in the past couple of years, but I think it's so long. Like, we still have so far to go to even make the kind of significant dent that we need to make in terms of just, like, let me live and support me.
Especially, I feel like even with this whole body positivity thing and not insulting people for the way they look, I think there is a level of being fat can be an off limits, like, thing when you're talking about somebody, unless you already don't like them. And if you don't like somebody who happens to be fat, then fat shaming's okay. But if you had somebody that you liked who was fat, you wouldn't want them fat shamed.
Right.
But, like, because you don't like that person, now it's okay.
You see this a lot in politics, not to get political at all, but
whenever I see a thing about, like, that fat shames Donald Trump, like, look, I am not a fan of the president.
Right.
But I could give you a million reasons why that have nothing to do with his weight.
Right, exactly. Like, I always can't stand when, like, people, like, if somebody beefs it and somebody messes up, like, if they're bigger, it's always qualified with, like, look at this fat fuck who also made this mistake. Right.
Like, you
get Chris Christie and Nancy Pelosi kind of pulled that stunt every now and again too. And, like, it's on both sides of the political spectrum where, like, if somebody beefs it and somebody just full on wangs it, they get the moniker of like way to go, fat ass. And I always just have to be like, you could have just made your point. You could have just made your point.
To bring the weight into it.
Yeah, like, just because, like, it's not like an extra, like, roll on their stomach is the one that made the mistake.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like somebody hit the big red button with their second chin. Like, no, of course not. Like, that's not how it goes. And I think that it's so, I don't know, it lessens your point. Like it makes your point. I can't believe I'm going to say it. Hold less weight. Like like a pun not intended actually. But like I think that that's a very important thing that we need to keep making strides against. You know,
I agree. And before we move on from that, I do just want to give a quick shout out to the same thing goes with thin shaming. Like
absolutely.
the whole eat a sandwich route. Because
Cannot
I know we have
stand
a
that.
lot of listeners too who maybe not experienced fat shaming but have experienced the thin shaming.
Yeah, like,
and there's no reason for it.
Could you imagine somebody like, I mean, granted, like we can't even imagine what it would be like to be in that situation of someone being like, hey, you need to eat something.
Honestly,
like, oh,
honestly,
okay.
the first day that I ever get
Thank you
skinny
very much,
shamed-
Miss Lippy.
Yeah, the first time I ever get skinny shamed, I won't even feel it. Like I'll just be happy. Like
I'll kind of just be like, whoa, you'll call me and I'll call you.
You'll never guess what happened.
But could you imagine how annoying that would be? How frustrating that would be?
absolutely.
If you're just sitting there minding your own goddamn business and someone's like, hey, you need to go eat a sandwich, and be like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you feel my hunger by the transitive property? Like, what are you, goddamn Professor X there? Like, no, just you need to just kind of politely piss off and just go your step away and just let people live.
Just let people live.
Let people live. And so that is 17 burgers. Hold the fat shaming.
Next time it's going to be 18.
It's just funny. On this title, I put 1 burger, and you were like, we should do a bigger number. And so I let you pick this number, and 17's the number.
I was like, who's going to shame somebody for 1 burger? That's not realistic. 17 burgers, honestly, like, I think there are very few people who wouldn't shame somebody
It is
for
the
that.
17th
So that's
today.
why we need to...
It is,
and it is the 17th.
It is the 17th. So
happy birthday!
But hey, we're gonna move in. We're gonna finish light, and we're going
birthday Fat Camp Follies.
A birthday Fat Camp Follies, man. Like I am so excited. We haven't done this in a bit. We there was a stretch where we were doing a lot of camp stuff.
Yeah,
and then I was just like, man, like let's just go back to some camp stuff. Like
it's been too long.
It has been too long, and so the title of this Fat Camp Follies is Nybors. And some people outside of our network are going to hear that word. Nybors, and they're going to go, what is about to happen? Is that a sex thing? No, it's not.
No.
But honestly, the experience is borderline. It
is sex in your mouth.
It really kind of is. It is orgasmic in every sense of the word. Sorry, Mom. Here's the thing. Would you care to kind of just give a brief synopsis of what Nybors is?
So it's a small local coffee chain near where we went to camp. The one that we went to was this drive-through. It was literally a trailer.
It was a shack in every sense of the word.
Right. It was a trailer. I think it was like a trailer like actually on wheels.
It had like a horseshoe gravel kind of pull through.
Right.
And it was a trailer on wheels that somebody literally probably just looked at and was like, that's where we need to serve coffee out of.
whenever you drive by, like it looks like it just doesn't even look like a place unless there are people like waiting in the line in the drive-through.
In any other context, it would look like where you go to like buy cigarettes and your weed. Like, like that's kind of what it looked like. But it was I want to say it was 100 square feet at most.
And let me tell you something, the coffee, I mean, I can't really speak to the coffee too much. I didn't have the coffee, but they had a lot of coffee-ish drinks. Their drinks.
The thing with Nybors, right, is that Nybors was, it had some of the best coffee around. It had some of the best drinks around. And during a hot summer day, this was the place to be. But the problem with Nybors is that you could only really go on your period off.
Right, because it was closed after like 4
Right,
5.
and so like you weren't going to Nybors at night, okay? And so Nybors, I want to say conservatively, was probably an 8-9 minute drive from camp. I mean,
that's like
and that's
it.
Yeah, that is pushing it.
It's more like 10-15.
I was always trying to think of like the land speed record of Nybors, but here's the thing: is that you are always trying to race not just against the clock, but you're racing against everybody else on camp who has that period off.
Oh yeah, and especially like the way that like people would go in groups, but then they would like also like once they get there with 5 people in the car, then there would be the other people that they're buying for. So they pull up. They might be ordering 10 drinks.
Yeah, exactly. 10 drinks.
And you get stuck behind like 2 cars like that, you're not going to be able to order anything because you have to be back by the time the period's over, or else like you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
Let me set the scene. Let me set the scene though. That you would start your period off and you'd be walking to your car, and then one person would pull up and be like, "Hey, are you going to Nybors?" And be like, "Yeah, I was going to stop by. Can I roll with?" Cool. And then you walk not even 10 more feet. 2 more people come up and they're like, "Hey, are you guys going to Nybors? Can we roll with?" Yeah, sure, I get. At some point, I remember one time I went to Nybors on a period off and I had 7 people in my car.
I was going to say I had 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I had 6 at the most.
I had 7 people in my Honda goddamn CRV with shit in my trunk, and people are just cramming in there, and you roll up like a dick. And there's
one time I had somebody literally in the hatch, like sitting in the back, like in the hatch seat.
You had one person.
That wasn't the seat.
It was one person making these coffees. And what was your go-to at Nybor's? Because you weren't really much of a coffee drinker there.
So they had this thing called a granita, which is a kind of like a frozen iced coffee.
Right.
But this was like before Dunkin' would like have their frozen
right
coffee.
Consistently.
So
yeah.
this was like brand new for us. And they had the G4, which was like the sugar-free version.
Healthy.
Yeah, I would always justify it with the sugar-free version. I'd get the double XL G4 Granita, and then I would throw in all of these very sugary flavors. So the 3 flavors, the combination that
what were your go-to flavors? Because they had over 100 flavors.
And you could get up to 3 of them for a single drink. So you could mix and match all sorts of flavors. And what I found my favorite was toasted marshmallow, cookie dough, and brown sugar cinnamon.
Oh, hell yeah. That sounds delicious.
That triple combination.
Lest we forget, though, that the double XL at Nybor's was a full 64 ounces. It was in this styrofoam. You could classify it as a goddamn bucket. Like you had to hold this thing with 2 hands half the time. It was massive.
And there would be times where I would get this massive double XL, but like we can't bring it on.
You can't bring it back
because it's a fat camp. We can't bring like, oh, here's my 1,000-calorie coffee for today. And so I would literally have whatever time was left of my period off to finish drinking it, and then I'd have to like shove it in a fridge in like the office and sneak in there later and pick it out.
The amount of brain freeze that you would see some like just low-level counselors get just trying to chug their coffee before it ends. And so for me, I would get coffee every now and again because I did like their coffee, but my go-to was always the 20 Below. The 20 Below was a frozen hot chocolate. And this thing was the most delicious thing. I would always get, it would be a large 20 Below with peanut butter and cookie dough and whipped cream. And do not sleep on the Reese's Soft Baked Cookies that some random person would
true.
Like they weren't in any real packaging. It was just like, you guys want a Reese's Soft Baked Cookie? It's like $2. I'm like, okay.
They were like totally like self-packaged. Like I don't know where they came from.
I'm not joking. Nybor's for being just a shack. 90% of their business in the summertime came, I feel like, from our camp.
Absolutely. And it makes me concerned for them. Like how do they keep the bills going with none of us there?
Well, I guess your operating costs in a shack with a lamp.
I guess that's true. They're not that high.
And a couple blenders. But I think that like it's so funny when people think of camp because Nybor's has the kind of lore of Wawa. Like it is very much the same thing. But
do you want a pro tip here before we keep going? Because I just remembered this.
Go for it.
So obviously being there for 10 years, same people are working there every year. So year after year, they start to get to know me. And I would go very often because sometimes I would also do a run for all of the people in the office because they're busy working. So they send me out with money to go pick them up some stuff.
Right.
And they have a stamp card system. So I was getting all their stamps, which got me like a free coffee like every other day.
Oh, I didn't think of that. So you were just using your stamp card with everyone they bought with their money.
Yep.
Oh, that's super
and I would
dope.
probably get like 6 or so because like some people got like multiple things.
Right.
So
to have throughout the day. Yeah.
Right. And so I got onto like the first name basis with the person who was at Nybor's, and she started to put in coffee beans into my G4 when they blended it.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that it was like just like all these little like coffee beans like nice and
I love
shredded
that.
into the drink. So if you ask for that,
that's a huge tip.
That'd be big.
But here's the thing with Nybor's, when you're racing against the clock, sometimes, and you've dealt with this too, like you are racing, it turns into Mad Max Fury Road.
Well, because think about this, especially the first period off.
Oh,
because the first period off, it was in very high demand to have first period off. Because first of all, it was like 15 minutes longer than the other periods.
Very
which
true.
Was always nice. And number 2, it's the first period of the morning. You want to go and get your coffee. If you are not prepared as soon as they call first period, you will have a problem.
If you are not Hunger Games sprinting to the parking lot, you are effed.
If you forgot your wallet or your keys in the bunk,
it's over. You might as well not go.
Yeah. And half the time, if you drive by and you see, like, you could be getting out of there 5 minutes after they've called the period. And when you get to Nybor's, you'll already see 3 cars lined up in the parking lot.
And you're screwed.
Packed with people like a freaking clown car. And you go, I guess we're going to Dunkin' today.
Yeah, I know. You have to kind of punt and go to Dunkin'.
And honestly, the Dunkin' drive-thru was never even that good either. It was always busy there.
You had a Mad Max Fury Road type of moment at Nibors.
Oh, I did, because, so let me set the scene for you. The year is 2014. I haven't had Nibors in literally 24 hours. I need some coffee.
Yep.
My friend Ryan, he needs some coffee too. As we go off to go to Nibors, like you said, oh, can I join you for Nibors?
Yep.
Absolutely. Oh, can I come to Nibors? Absolutely. Is there room in your car? Yes, there is.
Squad!
We are 5 deep in my car, ready to go, and across the parking lot, because I'm parked towards the back.
Yep.
I lock eyes with our friend Ariel because she and a bunch of our other friends were getting into her car.
Battle of the sexes.
And it was on because we knew the other one was going there, and they were getting a ton of coffees, and there wasn't going to be much time.
Yep.
And she got the head start. So we are racing down these windy roads. And when we get to the road, the main road, they're ahead of us. They're about to pull in to Nibors. Next to Nibors, if you don't go in that way, it is right next to a small grassy area that leads right onto.
Yeah, it's sort of like half grass, half ditch. I mean, like.
Well, it didn't look like a ditch. It was grassy. It was very grassy, a lot of tall grass.
Very unassuming.
And so we're there, we're behind her car, and then my friend Ryan just says, you should cut her off. Go that way. And you know what? The adrenaline's pumping. I'm like, we need to get there. I'm like, yes. Boom. Go. It was a little bit ditchier than I thought, but we bump a little bit. We bounce up. We're in front. The gravel is like now flying. Like there's dust kicked up and everything. But we get all the way up and we're there. We won. We got it. And we are laughing. We are like, like everyone's like going crazy. Like, oh, we did it. We did it. Meanwhile, I see in the rear view mirror, I see Ariel getting out of her car and walking over, and she's just going, what the fuck? And we're just still laughing. We have we're just like,
you
this
just
is
think
so...
she's mad about you winning.
Yeah. We're like, we got you. And then she's like, do you even see what you did to your car?
And you go, oh no. Oh shit. Beans.
Beans. Because in the tall grass was hidden some lumber. And there was something.
Oh no, there was. I didn't know that there was wood in the ditch.
Yeah, and it took my bumper clean off. My front bumper clean off. It's just sitting there.
It's just
in
sitting
front.
there in the front of the wood.
and suddenly, like, my heart drops. The other people in my car are still laughing.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
So now I want to just shoot everyone. Like my day is like ruined. And then it's also like, okay, now Ariel got to the Nibors first, so she got to go around me because I was no longer driving. Right,
your car is useless now.
And then more cars are coming, and like everybody else in the car is just like, I'm trying to figure out like how am I going to get this together so I can get back to camp.
Right.
And everybody else is like, okay, would you be mad if we got some I
mean,
like, what do you want?
Hey Barry, like I know that like you really kind of wanged it here and that you're probably gonna have to spend around $450 to replace your bumper, but I really want to get a coffee.
And like, yeah, get your fucking coffee. But so
were you able to get your car back to camp?
Well, it was very touch and go for a bit.
Okay.
But then a good Samaritan came by and saw the crisis, and this is somebody who was not there to watch me create my own crisis.
Right.
But she sees me with this, and her daughter had a jump rope that was just sitting in the back of her car.
Oh wow! So you were able
to. She helped us with the jump rope to tie the bumper onto the car just to get it back to camp.
Right.
And then after that, we brought it to a
shop to get it.
And yeah, it was taken care of.
And when I tell you,
so Mom, when you hear about this,
she's gonna be so mad.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of knows. She thought it was like she thought
pothole.
It was well when we had brought it to because the guy that worked the auto shop knows her, and so he told her that he thought that I had been like driving around like at the racetrack because apparently that's something that the locals do, which is something that we never did.
Hell yeah.
But she was like, yeah, he said that he could tell that you were at the racetrack, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
Yeah, you were driving a Honda Fit.
Yeah, like
what are you gonna do racing with a Honda Fit? Like, hey, you guys want to watch me go 45?
Like, yeah. I don't even like accelerating getting onto a highway. You're gonna think I'm gonna be at a racetrack?
Yeah, no, get the hell out of here with that. But
it was worse though.
Was it worth it though?
For
the
Nibors,
story?
yeah.
For the Nibors, is it worth it?
It's always worth it.
And folks, that just lets you know just how worth it this shack is. If you ever find yourself in the Poconos, you find the Nibors Coffee Shack on Route 611, you will not be disappointed.
It's not the walk-in one. They do have a walk-in one.
No,
in a different,
not
in
the
a
walk-in
different
one.
town.
You got to go.
The walk-in one is. I mean, it's better as a drive-in.
You have to go to a
drive-through.
beat-up shack that is one storm away from being wiped off the face of the planet. Okay,
Yeah.
That's where the best coffee comes from. But that's another Fat Camp Follies. I'm really glad we got to do that one because I really wanted to pay. We pay so much homage to Wawa that Nibors always deserves its due.
It's the unsung hero.
And so, folks,
Even though I think we had Nibors more than Wawa.
I know we had Nibors every single day of our camp lives, but we are going to head into closing thoughts. And I think that in the spirit of I guess making it to past the 27 club. Like
you're in the 27.
Yeah, like I'm in the 27. I think honestly, it's just been wild I think every year on my birthday, really the most of what I do is just reflect. Like you just kind of reflect on what happened, and this past year has just been nuts.
What happened this year? anything big happened to you?
I mean, well, like just kind of like, but think about it, just everything. Like it is pretty wild. Like, and of course, last week I was all about just like appreciate the moments that are in front of you, and I'm very thankful for you being here on the ones and twos with me every week, and then also just helping me get through my life every day of the week. But also, I think just like it's a good day to have a good day.
Right.
And I think that's the big thing.
I like that.
And I'm very happy with that. And you know what? We're in this weird limbo of being kind of towards the end of the losing weight portion, but still trying to figure out what it's going to be like for our maintenance portions. But we're just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing for us. It's just taking it one day at a time, but being sure to enjoy it along the way.
Absolutely. And can I just add one last closing thought?
Yeah, go for it.
It is not okay to shame fat people. It is not okay to shame skinny people. And it is not okay to shame somebody for accidentally like knocking the bumper off of their car by driving irresponsibly. Those are the three things that is never okay to shame someone for.
Folks,
and I hope all of our listeners, including the ones who are related to me, are hearing that message loud and clear.
We don't make the rules. We just enforce them.
Exactly.
But we want to thank you guys all for listening to another episode of Sorry for the Wait. We appreciate it so much. If you want to submit, write to us at SFTWSubmissions@gmail.com.
You can also make sure to like us on all the social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like it with both your real account and the account that you use to vent all of your shaming ideas.
And then after you do that, get on your phone, clack it in, 774-855-9433. Leave us a voicemail.
Please leave us a voicemail. And when you're done leaving us a voicemail, go to Apple Podcasts, and we would love it if you would give us a 5-star rating and a review.
We would really appreciate it so much. And you know what? We're just gonna keep on keeping on. We've got a birthday to celebrate. But until next time, I'm Seth.
And I'm Strawberry.
And remember, folks, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, and keep your snacks the closest.